Chapter 1. The Mysterious Map. Lily was a girl with a curious mind, who loved to explore and new things find. One day while out on a walk, she discovered a map, hidden and locked. The map was old and made of parchment, and it showed a forest, dark and enchantment. Lily's heart raced with excitement and glee as she studied the map with her friends, the bees. For days and nights, Lily planned and prepared, with backpacks and gear and maps well compared. She set out one morning with hope and with cheer to find the enchanted forest so far and so near. Through meadows and valleys, she walked and she ran. Over hills and mountains, she trekked like a fan. Her journey was long, but her spirit was strong, for she knew in her heart this was where she belonged. And finally, after a week on the road, Lily arrived at the forest with her map as her goad. The trees towered high and the air was so clear. This was the enchanted forest, with nothing to fear. With her compass in hand and her heart full of pride, Lily entered the forest with nothing to hide. She was the littlest explorer, but she was bold and bright, and she was ready for anything, day or night. Chapter 2. Meeting New Friends. As Lily walked deeper into the forest so fair, she met some new friends who lived all around there. A fox with bright eyes and a bushy red tail, a wise old owl who could see through the veil, a squirrel with quick feet and a bushy tail, a rabbit who could hop and never fail, and many more creatures who lived in the trees, who sang and danced. With Lily they were pleased. With her new friends by her side, Lily felt so strong. Together they journeyed, singing a sweet song. They crossed a stream with a rope bridge so wide, and Lily felt so happy she wanted to glide. But the forest had dangers, of which they were warned by the wise old owl who had seen many a storm, a wolf pack so sly and fierce, who hid in the shadows and loved to pierce. Lily and her friends hatched a clever plan to outwit the wolves with their knowledge and span. They built a decoy with a cloak and a hat, and fooled the wolves. They ran this and that. With the wolves gone, Lily and her friends felt free to explore the forest and just be. They played games and told stories under the starry night, and Lily felt so happy with her friends so bright. Chapter 3. Crossing the river. As Lily and her friends continued on their quest, they came to a river, wide and so blessed. The current was strong, the water so deep. Lily wondered how to cross without making a peep. But her friends had ideas, and they worked together to build a raft that would float like a feather. They gathered branches and leaves and twine, and worked all night until it was just fine. The next day they set off, on the river so grand, with Lily steering and the others lending a hand. The water was choppy, and the raft rocked and swayed, but they kept their balance, and were not afraid. Suddenly, they heard a sound from behind a boulder. It was a group of otters who liked to be a little bolder. They snatched their food and their map too. Lily and her friends were so very blue, but they didn't give up, and they didn't cry. They kept on going under the open sky. They built a new map from their memory and wits, and they learned to be stronger from their little bits. After a long journey, they finally reached the shore. Lily and her friends had never been so sure. They looked back at the river with a smile on their face, and knew they could conquer anything in any place. Chapter 4. A Forest of Wonders. As Lily and her friends continued through the forest so wide, they stumbled upon a place with wonders inside. The trees were glowing, and the flowers shone bright. It was a magical place, full of colors and light. There were trees with faces, and flowers that sang, animals that danced, and bells that rang. Lily and her friends were amazed and delighted. It was a forest so wondrous they had never sighted. They played in the meadows and climbed up the hills. They swung on the vines and slid on the rills. The forest was a wonderland, of magic and glee, and Lily and her friends were as happy as could be. But the forest had secrets and dangers too. A witch who lived there, with an evil brew. She didn't like visitors, and she didn't like fun. She wanted the forest for herself and no one. Lily and her friends didn't know what to do. They didn't want to leave, and they didn't want to rue. They decided to talk to the witch in the tree and ask her nicely to let them be. But the witch was angry, and she refused. She cast a spell that made them feel confused. Lily and her friends were lost in the forest so great, and they didn't know how to change their fate. But Lily had an idea, and she whispered it low. She sang a song that made the witch go slow, and with a flick of her wand and a sparkle of light, Lily broke the spell and saved the night. The witch was amazed, and she changed her ways. She joined Lily and her friends in the forest's maze. And from that day on, the forest was full of wonders, with magic and joy that never goes under. Chapter 5. The Final Challenge. As Lily and her friends continued on their quest, they knew that their final challenge was the best. They had to climb up a mountain, so high and steep, and reach the top before they could sleep. The mountain was rocky, and the wind blew so strong. Lily and her friends knew it would take them long. They climbed and climbed, with their hearts full of grit, and never gave up, not even a bit. The rocks were slippery, and the path was so thin. Lily and her friends had to be careful to win. They helped each other, and they never lost hope, for they knew that their journey would help them cope. At last, they reached the top of the mountain so tall, and there they found a treasure for all. A crystal so bright and a note so true that said, "You are brave, and you made it through." Lily and her friends were over the moon, for they had reached the top so very soon. They looked down at the forest from up above, and knew that they had grown with courage and love. They climbed down the mountain with smiles on their face, and celebrated their victory with a warm embrace, for they had learned that together they could do anything they wanted and dreams could come true. And as they walked back through the enchanted land, Lily and her friends held each other's hand, for they knew that their journey had made them so strong, and they would always be together where they belong. Chapter 6. Returning home. As Lily and her friends walked through the forest so green, they knew it was time to return to their scene. They had to say goodbye to the enchanted land and return to their homes with stories so grand. They thanked their new friends for all the adventures, for the memories they made that would last forever. They hugged them tightly and said their goodbyes, and promised to meet again under the bright blue skies. Lily and her friends walked back to their town, and there they saw their family so renowned. They ran to them with hugs so tight, and told them their stories under the moonlight. They told them of the map and the friends they made, of the river they crossed and the forest's shade, of the wonders they saw and the dangers they faced, of the mountain they climbed and the treasure they traced. Their families were amazed, and they listened with glee, for they knew that their children had seen what they couldn't see. They hugged them once more and thanked the enchanted land for making their children so brave and so grand. And from that day on, Lily and her friends knew that they could conquer any obstacle that bends, for they had the courage and the love in their heart that they learned from the enchanted land from the start. Epilogue. The next adventure. As Lily and her friends sat under the shade, they thought about the adventure that they had made. They remembered the enchanted land and the wonders they saw, and they knew that they wanted to explore even more. They looked at each other with a smile so bright and said, "We should plan our next adventure tonight." They talked and they planned for hours and hours, and decided to explore the magical towers. The magical towers were said to be high, and no one had seen them in the bright blue sky. Lily and her friends knew it was their chance to explore the unknown and take a new stance. They packed their bags and set off on their quest, and this time they knew they were the best. They crossed rivers and climbed mountains so steep, and never gave up, not even a peep. They finally reached the magical towers so high, and looked at them with a gleam in their eye. They climbed and they climbed, until they reached the top, and there they found a crystal so bright it wouldn't stop. They knew that their journey had been worth the while, for they had found the crystal that shone like a mile. They hugged each other and promised to explore even more lands and make memories galore. And so, Lily and her friends set off on their way to explore more lands and make memories every day. For they knew that their journey had just begun, and they were ready for anything under the bright sun.